conference room fell silent. After 20 years of carefully guarded secrets, she finally spoke the words that would change everything. Her hands trembled slightly as she faced the cameras, knowing that what she was about to reveal would send shockwaves through an entire industry. She had been there from the beginning, a trusted executive who witnessed decisions that shaped the fate of thousands. For 2 decades, she carried the weight of knowledge that could destroy reputations, collapse stock prices, and rewrite business textbooks. Now, the silence was ending. The confession did not come easily. She had watched the company grow into a giant, celebrated by investors and admired by competitors. Behind the polished presentations and glowing financial reports, however, lay a different reality. Numbers had been adjusted, reports had been carefully crafted. The truth had been buried under layers of corporate strategy. Business analysts immediately recognized the significance. When someone holds critical information for 20 years and finally speaks, the market listens with urgency. This was not a disgruntled employee making wild claims. This was an insider with documents, emails, and first-hand knowledge of systematic practices that violated the fundamental principles of transparent business operations. The timing raised questions. Why now? What had changed after 2 decades of silence? Investigators would later discover that the weight of conscience had grown unbearable. She had watched young entrepreneurs invest their savings into what they believed was a solid opportunity. She had seen employees build their retirement plans on company stock that was valued on incomplete information. The confession revealed a pattern that experienced business leaders recognized immediately. When truth is suppressed for extended periods, the eventual disclosure carries exponential impact. Markets do not simply adjust to new information. They panic over what else might be hidden. Her words that evening were measured and precise. She spoke of mechanisms, timelines, and specific decisions. This was not emotional theater. This was strategic revelation designed to expose systemic failure at the highest institutional levels. The system was brilliant in its simplicity. For 20 years, it operated in plain sight, hidden only by the complexity of corporate structure and the trust placed in established institutions. She explained how it began with small adjustments, a quarterly report here, a projection there, nothing alarming at first. The company faced a difficult quarter and leadership decided to smooth the numbers. They told themselves it was temporary. They convinced themselves they were protecting jobs and investor confidence. But temporary became permanent. The adjustments grew larger. What started as minor accounting flexibility evolved into a sophisticated network of concealment. Different departments held different pieces of information. No single person except the inner circle saw the complete picture. The organizational hierarchy became a weapon of secrecy. Junior analysts questioned inconsistencies but were told they lacked context. Mid-level managers who pressed for clarity found their careers stalling. The message was clear without being spoken. Loyalty meant silence. She described the meetings where decisions were made. Executives gathered in private offices, away from official records. Conversations happened in hallways, not boardrooms. Email trails were carefully managed. The company had not broken laws through obvious fraud. They had exploited the gray areas where regulation remained unclear. Financial engineering played a crucial role. Revenue was recognized early. Expenses were deferred. Subsidiary companies were created to hold liabilities off the main balance sheet. Auditors saw what they were shown, and what they were shown told only part of the story. The confession revealed something deeper than individual wrongdoing. It exposed how modern corporate structures can enable deception through fragmentation. When information is compartmentalized, when hierarchy discourages questions, when complexity becomes a shield rather than a necessity, institutions become vulnerable to systematic distortion. Young entrepreneurs listening to her testimony understood the lesson. Building a business requires more than a good product or service. It requires structures that prevent the very deception that destroyed this empire. Transparency cannot be a policy, it must be architecture. The confession hit the markets at 6:47 p.m. Eastern Time. Within minutes, trading algorithms detected the keywords and began automated sell-offs. By morning, billions in market value had evaporated, but the real damage went far deeper than stock prices. She had exposed something that shook the foundation of investor confidence across multiple sectors. If this company, with its prestigious board, celebrated leadership, and decades of apparent success, could hide truth for 20 years, what about the others? Competitors faced immediate scrutiny. Investors began questioning every financial statement that resembled the exposed company's reporting style. Analysts who had praised the firm's performance now scrambled to explain how they missed the signs. The confession created a trust crisis that spread like contagion through related industries. Small businesses suffered unexpected consequences. Banks tightened lending requirements, fearing similar hidden problems in their loan portfolios. Suppliers who had contracts with the exposed company faced their own financial pressure as payment schedules collapsed. Employees across the industry watched retirement accounts shrink as entire sectors declined in valuation. Regulators moved swiftly but faced a complex challenge. The confession revealed practices that existed in legal gray areas. New rules would be needed, but regulatory change moves slowly while market panic moves instantly. Emergency hearings were scheduled. Industry leaders were summoned to testify. The government faced pressure to show decisive action. The confession also exposed a troubling reality about business education. Top universities had used this company as a case study of excellence. MBA students had analyzed its strategies as models of success. Now those same institutions had to explain how they had celebrated systematic deception as brilliant business practice. For young entrepreneurs, the cascading effects delivered a harsh lesson. Business success built on hidden foundations eventually collapses, and when it does, the damage extends far beyond the guilty parties. Innocent companies, honest employees, and trusting investors all pay the price when institutional integrity fails. The confession left business leaders with a critical question. How do we prevent this from happening in our own organizations? She had provided the diagnosis. Now the business community needed the cure. The answer lay not in complex regulations or expensive compliance systems, but in fundamental structural choices that entrepreneurs make from day one. First, transparency must be embedded in operational design, not added as an afterthought. Companies that survive scandals share a common trait. Information flows freely across all levels. When junior employees can question senior decisions without fear, when financial data is accessible to relevant stakeholders, when accountability is distributed rather than concentrated, deception becomes structurally difficult. Second, incentive systems must reward truth over short-term performance. Her confession revealed how bonus structures and promotion criteria had encouraged concealment. Executives who delivered smooth quarterly results advanced faster than those who reported problems. The organization had accidentally created economic rewards for hiding reality. Young entrepreneurs building new ventures have an advantage. They can design incentive alignment from the beginning, rewarding employees who identify problems early, celebrating transparent communication even when news is negative, and tying leadership compensation to long-term sustainable metrics rather than quarterly achievements. Third, external verification must be mandatory and independent. The company she exposed had used auditors who depended on their fees. True independence requires rotation, multiple verification sources, and systems where checkers have no financial stake in what they find. Technology now enables continuous transparency in ways impossible 20 years ago. Blockchain-based accounting, real-time stakeholder dashboards, and AI-powered anomaly detection make extended concealment increasingly difficult. Smart entrepreneurs adopt these tools not because regulators demand them, but because they provide competitive advantage. The confession taught a final lesson. Institutional resilience comes from making truth-telling economically rational. When hiding problems costs more than revealing them, when transparency attracts capital rather than frightening it away, when integrity becomes market advantage, the architecture of deception collapses. She had confessed after 20 years. The next generation of business leaders must build organizations where confession becomes unnecessary because truth was never hidden.